Hello and welcome to my gearing guide for Legacy of the Sith 7.0 Max Efficiency Super Grind. I don't know, I don't have a good title for it. So before we get into this video describing the best way to grind up to 326 gear, I want to give you a big warning. Extreme grinding will lead to loss of enjoyment for many players, and it will lessen your overall enjoyment of the game. So yes, this is not something that everybody should be doing. This is definitely something that a lot of players should think twice about before doing. With your warning out of the way, let's get on to what you really want, because if you're here, you want to know how to grind up to 326 as fast as possible, or you're just kind of curious just to see. So note that the PvP route is a very interesting way to gear up quickly, and you can horizontally farm gear that's 326 PvE sets once you've acquired your 326 PvP gear. But I will not be covering the PvP options in this guide. Okay, so the first thing that we want to talk about is getting Conquest. Make sure you hit level 76 before you get Conquest or your personal Conquest reward so that you can get the medals of Commendation that come along with Conquest. If you are really hardcore, you can deactivate your strongholds and try and hit level 80 before you make Conquest. You won't lose any unlocked rooms when you repurchase your strongholds, but this is a pretty extreme route to go. Anything you have to help with leveling should be used, and you can also try and get those pesky large Conquest objectives out of the way on different characters who aren't going to be your primary level 80. Why? Legendaries. Once you hit level 80, go pick up the legendary implant quest so you can start charging up the device as you farm additional gear upgrades. Legendaries will cost medals of accommodation, aquatic resource matrix, and tech frags. I'm really conflicted on the advice for unlocking the legendary vendor as fast as possible, as getting to level 80 without hitting Conquest is going to be hard. If you want to try and get to level 80 without Conquest, just make Conquest on a different character for the initial 200 medals before you start getting rid of your strongholds and trying to hit 80. Otherwise, don't sweat it and just grind up the quest with smaller objectives. You'll be getting a lot of charges while farming for gear anyways. Medals of Commendation. So the main way and the fastest way to earn these wonderful things is via Conquest once you're at level 76. So you will want to earn some Conquest on one character and boom! You will have enough resources to go and buy your first set of 320 gear at level 80. Head over to the Conquest gear vendor and pick these up. Now we will continue to need additional medals to upgrade our gear, so you will want to make Conquest on 4 other characters past level 76 to reach the weekly cap of 999 medals. To augment or not augment? Well, I would say that augmenting is not real important if you're following the Conquest gear upgrade path, as planets are still scaled and augments won't be as powerful. That said, I'm still going to augment my 320 gear for accuracy. Once you get into group content though, augmenting is big as everything will be level 80 and unscaled. Note that you will want to buy legendary implants before you make Conquest on your other characters so you can benefit from the additional tech frags towards buying more legendaries. Before you can buy your legendary, you will be required to farm up some aquatic resource matrix. So this is where you're going to slow down the most and require some optimization. Daily area missions and heroic weeklies are the best way to boost the amount gained, but come with a pitfall of a lot of players being shoved into the same area in 7.0. So with 7.0, you want to look at the available weeklies and figure out which ones are the most optimal ones to farm for your aquatic resource matrix. I've recorded the majority of this video before 7.0 launches, so go look on my channel for the specific weeklies that are available for each week when you're trying to farm, and I'll be doing that for at least the first month of 7.0. If you are part of a group, this will vastly improve the speeds at which you can complete missions. Do note that shared tagging is here for 7.0, so anything that requires killing enemies, you just need to hit the individual enemy to get credit, even if somebody else is killing it. So go ahead, AoE everything you can. It doesn't help if they're already dead when you get there, so for heroic missions I practice and study the respawn timers to minimize your frustration. Alright, so now that you have some arms to get you going, let's jump right into upgrading gear. Make sure you plan ahead and save enough aquatic resource matrix for your 2 legendary implants. In the meantime, head over to the Conquest gear vendor and spend some of those aquatic resource matrix to get to item rating 322. If you chose to augment your gear, make sure you rip out those augments so that you can reuse them, as they will be lost when you upgrade the gear. Same thing with color crystals. Now repeat the process of farming the most efficient arm spots until you are suffering. Yes, let the suffering fill you. Feel it. The dark side turn you must. Okay, so there's still a big limit on how much you can upgrade at this point, as arms are limited to 999 per week. Basically, you only have enough to hit item rating 322 in week 1 from your arms. Save any extra arms for upgrading gear in the other pass. Now it's time to augment your gear if you haven't already. We're moving on to group content. Flashpoints and operations. There is no gear upgrading to be found from story mode operations once you hit 322, and veteran mode flashpoints will only bump you up to 324. This puts us in an awkward spot as a solo player, as veteran mode flashpoints are the only reliable way to farm gear. This is made worse by the fact that you can't filter out any flashpoints from Activity Finder if you want to complete the weekly. So this means we should go back and revise our strategy just a little bit. As you farm your arms, doing heroics and daily areas, you should keep yourself in the Master Mode Flashpoint queue and stay for the easy Master Mode Flashpoints and quit for the hard ones. You can go back to farming arms in the meantime. As you complete the weekly missions and earn the upgrade crate, save it. Do not open it, whatever you do. Don't even bother with the Veteran Mode Flashpoint queue until you've finished your arm farm and gotten your 322 gear. So now you've finished your arm farm and you have 322 gear augmented, your tactical and your legendaries. Put yourself in the queue for both Master Mode and Veteran Mode Flashpoints to start doing those weekly missions. This is going to be a little bit of a rant on Flashpoint, so skip ahead to the next chapter markings if you don't want to listen. The problem in general with doing Flashpoints outside of a group is you never know if you're going to get a 15-minute group or a 45-minute group, or even worse, a group that just fails to actually finish the Flashpoint. So I really hate the unreliability of using Flashpoint weeklies to farm gear by yourself. With 7.0 being new and a lot of experienced players grinding gear, this problem won't be as bad as usual, but still, you could end up with just a really huge time sink and no progress at all that can feel very frustrating. Thanks to new combat logs though, in 7.0 you can actually see your entire group performance using star parse, and you're no longer able to have to guess if the DPS on your team is weak or if the content is overtuned and too challenging for the gear that's available. Based on my PTS testing, quite a few of the Master Mode Flashpoints were tuned for very high DPS checks, so I advise mixing in Veteran Mode weeklies with the Masters so you have a better chance of actually finishing a Flashpoint every time you get a group. It's about time investment versus reward. There isn't a benefit to only needing 2 Master Mode Flashpoints if it takes you 1.5 hours of trying to struggle through 2 of them, when you could have just done 3 Veteran Mode Flashpoints in 45 or 50 minutes. The moral of the story is to find competent players to group up with instead of Activity Finder random groups and rolling the dice. Okay, back on track with the most efficient method. Don't do group content with random players. Make a group of competent players and go in together. You can still take a group of 4 players into the Activity Finder for Flashpoints to complete the weekly. Just make sure you don't filter out any of the choices. At this point, you should know the optimal strategy is to bring 4 stealth classes to take advantage of any skips possible, but, play the way you want to. So take advantage of combat styles and grouping to drastically speed up the grind to 324. Unless you are certain none of the Master Mode Flashpoints in Activity Finder are very hard to do with your current gear, stick with the Veteran Mode Flashpoints initially. Note, we are not opening any of our Master Mode Flashpoint crates until all of our gear is 324. This is important. Since you can only do the weekly 3 times per character, you will be swapping around to finish the Flashpoint weeklies a few more times. Note, a level 75 character with a full set bonus and augments is still reasonably strong for doing Veteran Mode Flashpoints, though you can start earning those crates before you actually reach level 80. Each time you do a Veteran Mode Flashpoint weekly, you should end up with close to 2 upgrades. 1 upgrade will come from the crate, and 1 upgrade will come from the Decurion Isotope Stabilizers and your leftover arms. Make sure you equip 4 or 5 pieces of Veteran Mode Flashpoint gear and deconstruct the rest to get more of that dis. The best pieces to equip for the lowest upgrade currency cost are your arms, gloves, belt, boot, ear, and relics. This means you'll be doing around 6 to 8 Veteran Mode weekly missions to hit item rating 324. This is a pretty big time commitment as it works out to approximately 21 Flashpoints. This gives us an opportunity for variety. If you have a really good group to play with, some of the weekly missions for operations will be faster than running 3 Veteran Flashpoints at random, and you can cut out a few of the weekly Flashpoints with weekly hard mode operations. This will give you an upgrade crate for each operation and about 1/3 or 1/2 of the resources required to upgrade gear to 326. That said, the new scaling makes it much harder and much slower to run operations than we're used to. Make sure if you choose to use any of your operation crates to upgrade you to 324 gear, that you spend your hazardous matter catalyst upgrading a couple boss drops from 322 to 324 first. For example, you might run 5 Veteran Flashpoint weeklies to upgrade about 8 or 10 pieces of gear, and 3 hard mode operation weeklies to upgrade the remaining 3 pieces of gear, and you might have 1 or 2 crates left over to go from 324 to 326. Now that you're at 324 gear, you should already have a variety of Master Mode Flashpoint crates to open up and get to 326. If you don't have enough crates or currency to upgrade all of your gear to 326, either run some more Master Mode weeklies for the crates or hard mode operation weeklies. Aquatic Resource Matrix will be your most limiting resource at this point for upgrading gear, so once you're out of arms, either earn the crates through Master Mode Flashpoint weeklies or the hard mode operation weeklies. Alright, let's talk about farming extra sets. Farming extra sets is pretty simple. Once you've reached item rating 326, just do Master Mode Flashpoints or hard mode operations while wearing that gear, and the bosses will give you 1 piece of 326 gear that is legacy bound. This method does not require doing the weekly, so you can spam whatever you find the fastest instead of being limited to the weekly missions. If you have a group, you can also start farming the purple 326 gear by killing bosses in Master Mode operations. Alright, let's move on to the recap. So if you're getting a little confused or lost, you don't have to rewatch the whole video, you can just come back to this section. Step 1. Make your first conquest after level 76. Ensure that the personal conquest reward will give you medals of commendation before you actually make your personal conquest. Step 2. Once you hit level 80, buy 320 gear off the vendor and pick up the quest for legendary implants. It's optional if you want to augment here. Step 3. You should be farming daily areas and heroics to earn aquatic resource matrix, and if you're going to be soloing your flashpoints, you should also be queuing for master mode flashpoints while doing your aquatic resource matrix farm, so that way you can actually abandon the ones that suck and have something to do while waiting for the activity finder lockout to expire. Step 4. Continue to earn conquest for medals of commendation until you hit the weekly cap of 999. Go load up those other characters and make conquest once they've hit level 76 or whatever is required to earn the medals of commendation as part of your personal conquest reward. Step 5. Buy legendary implants, 2 of them, and upgrade all of your gear, 12 pieces, to 322. Make sure you remove any augments if you have them in there. You're going to be using the conquest gear upgrade vendor. And step 6. Augment all of your gear. Step 7. Farm flashpoints. Put on 4 to 6 of the cheapest upgrade cost 322 veteran mode flashpoint gear and upgrade them to 324 with currency, and then open your weekly crate from veteran mode flashpoints to upgrade the rest of the gear to 324. Deconstruct excess gear for more upgrade currency as you're doing this. Do not do more veteran mode weeklies once you hit 324. Step 7.b. You can mix in a few hard mode operations if you can finish each one faster than a flashpoint weekly. Step 8. Farm master mode flashpoints and upgrade to 326 via crates and any leftover upgrade resources, 2 to 4 items. So I finished all of my editing, got through the whole video, realized I actually forgot to tell you something, so here we are. How are you going to deal with the fact that you need to split this across multiple characters? So the weekly missions are limited to 3 weekly mission rewards per week per character. So with this method, we are going to be swapping characters and farming up on multiple characters. Now, it does take time to reach level 80, but a lot of these activities, from what we could tell in the PTS, you were able to start them at level 75, 76, and get the rewards required for the gear. No problem. Just be grinding the gear weeklies out while leveling up. You do have to be level 80 to actually finish doing all the gear upgrading with the crates, because the reward crates, you can't actually open them until you're level 80. All of the stuff that gets upgraded at the gear vendor, you can keep all of your gear on one character for quite a long period of time. You can upgrade it at the vendor, so on, while farming those resources from other characters across your legacy. Once you have the gear crates that come from the Flashpoint and the Operation content, you will need to actually have that character to level 80 as those crates are bound to them. You'll need to transfer your gear, that's the highest item rating, over to that character and then open the crates to get the appropriate upgrades. Okay, thanks for watching everybody. That was quite the adventure. I did do a lot of different research on this video. It's not going to be 100% the perfect way, but in general, this is going to be the most efficient way to grind up to 326 in week 1. If you want to get to 330 gear, that's really going to be a week 2 thing. There's pretty much no easy way to do it in week 1 without a lot of weird finagling that also involves the PvP tree for getting gear. And even then, you are probably going to be limited by aquatic resource matrix. So as always, have a great day, and we'll see you in the next video.